You are now listening to Project Discourse Radio, where everyday people discuss everyday things. Please stay tuned for our upcoming dialogue on the mental slavery debacle featuring Kanye West commentary with the panel.
Times are getting rough, times are getting hard. All I can call is my God. All I can call is my God. And I say, Lord, 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 Lord. Cause all I can call is my God, my God. All I can call is my God. And I say, Lord, Lord. I keep flicking the buttons on the television, cause I can see their lies and their true agenda. Another black man shot, ain't it so suspicious that he died on the Super Bowl sacrificial? Look, I don't know about you, but I got tunnel vision. And if it ain't my Christ, then I'ma straight dismiss it. Cause if your soul ain't right, then you in hell's kitchen. And I ain't tryna be invited to that barbecuing. The church think they grace card is unlimited, like the law done away and it's over with. Pastor say, all you gotta say is, Father, I repent. Believe with your heart and son, you gon' make it in. Whew. Lord, Lord, I say I think we need help. Lord, Lord, I say my people need help. Lord, Lord, I don't know why we can't get right within. Happens time and time again. It's like we fell in love with sin, and then we end up in a place where we can't repent. Like Lazarus and the rich man, then we want a second chance to make amends. It's like it was all good just a week ago. Yeah, it was all hood just a week ago. Trapped in the sin like the week before. Now you wishing you could turn back this scenario. If you had a little more time, would've said your soul. Yeah. You got dunked in the water like a carnival. Would've rounded up your sin to the nearest 10. And did a fast on the devil, then start to repent. But now you stuck in a place where you don't fit in. And it's crowded as hell with a foul smell. And you can't even catch your breath, you gasping for air. And this torture is gonna last for 1,000 years. Ooh, ooh, yeah, gonna last for 1,000 years. Ooh, gonna last for 1,000 years. Ooh. We gon' call. I ain't talking about no Ghostbusters. We gon' call. We gon' call. Focus on the Father, get yourself together, please. The time is short and it's hotter than 500 degrees. You don't know when you're gonna leave. You don't know when your breath will cease. So don't waste your time. Keep your mind on the kingdom, yeah.
Are you looking for inspirational Bible-based stories to share with your children, friends, or church congregation? You filter your music and TV shows. Why not filter what you read? BryanJabouin is a Christian author who writes stories that teach biblical morals and lessons. Fun and engaging, these stories are packed full of action and adventure that will motivate and inspire all those who read them. Join Bryan on his journey to build a new generation of Christian writers and readers. Visit his website, BryanJabouin.online, and subscribe to his mailing list to receive a free copy of his first short story, The Black Pearl. You can also reach Bryan by email at BryanJabouin@gmail.com.
Okay, what's up, everyone? This is your girl, Stephanie, and welcome to the Project Discourse podcast, where everyday people discuss everyday things. First and foremost, we want to give all praise, glory, and honor to our Father, the Creator, for allowing us to see another day. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners for joining us today. We definitely have a very interesting show lined up. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get acquainted with our panel. I'd like the members to introduce themselves, starting with Mike.
Good evening. I'm Mike.
Good evening. I'm Ahchwan.
Good evening.
Hello, I'm Ericka.
Okay, thank you guys. And I'm Stephanie, your host. And so you had to have been living under a rock if you haven't heard about the Kanye West and his TMZ interview. Well, this time Kanye came under fire for what most would consider highly offensive and inflammatory remarks. Not only that, Kanye's seemingly bizarre behavior has been heavily scrutinized within the media, with most painting the once beloved and reverenced rapper as mentally unstable. But interestingly enough, there are many Black Americans who agree with Kanye's opinions and have come to defend his stance by calling it thought-provoking rhetoric. Also labeling him as misunderstood and even saying it's about damn time we hear the truth about ourselves. So tonight's segment is dedicated to the mental slavery debate and whether or not Black folk or quote unquote African Americans are still enduring some form of enslavement. We have a president in the White House who has paved the way and emboldened racists to show their true colors. And now when bigotry is at an all-time high, we have folks within our race, our own race, calling us out. Whether you agree or disagree, we can't deny that now is the time for us to address our condition. So to my panel members, starting with Mike, what are your thoughts on Kanye West and his recent remarks and behavior, as well as the mental state of Black America?
Well, first, to address Kanye, I've been obviously following his career for a while. He's always kind of been that awkward guy in the classroom that seems to want to be cool and seems to want to need to let you know that he's talented and that his mind should be respected, which I don't necessarily have an issue with that. What I do have an issue with when it comes to Kanye, though, is that he's often just shooting from the hip. And within that, he's emotional when he's shooting off the hip, at least for me. And when you tend to be emotional, you tend to not really think through the things that you're saying at times. I was one of those people that actually saw the TMZ video actually live. I happened to be home and I was flipping through the channels and it happened to be on and they had him in the studio and I'm watching him speak on this and I'm seeing his body language and I'm watching him look like everything is building up on him from the inside. And I'm not here to necessarily say that he was wrong for how he feels. A part of me understands, or at least wants to understand, what he was trying to say with regard to his feeling like slavery was a choice. And I'm careful with myself saying that, knowing that I know what I know about American history, African history, Black history, and slavery. But also at the same time, I think that on both ends, whether you were a supporter of Kanye or whether you were a detractor, I think everybody kind of got into their own feelings about Kanye rather than actually trying to dissect what he was saying. I do feel like we are, or at least some of us, are in a place of a mental slavery still, if you will. There will always be the argument that, hey, nobody's in chains and nobody's, being abused in some sort of way. That's another topic that I'm pretty sure we'll discuss. But also at the same time, I think that with Kanye, he really doesn't have a filter that necessarily lets him not wear his heart on his sleeve and say things that he wants to say. Even if his intentions are good, he just doesn't have the ability to really be able to convey what he's trying to say for someone that's supposed to be as articulate as he is.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone who is on the opposing side of Mike's argument?
Me, I definitely see a different point of view.
Okay, go ahead and take the floor.
Yeah, this is Ahchwan. I hear what you're saying, brother, and you sound very clear, and I understand exactly what you mean. But I also think that, I'm gonna say this before I speak. I'm gonna say this. I don't agree with anything that Kanye has done in the past, as far as because they say that he's an Illuminati and all this type of stuff, and I'm not into all of that point of what he's doing. But I can say this. When he was speaking, and a few times that he has spoken in rant, his rant, he has been. I feel like his spirit is trying to say something that most people can't say. I think that he, like he's been going back and forth into different parts of the hospital and things of that nature. But I also think, that they're trying to shut his mouth. They're trying to make him, basically trying to, shut him out of the society and keep him quiet. Now, on the part where you said that, that he's emotional, I do agree with that. But when he was speaking about that slavery is a choice, I agreed fully because I know scripture behind what the brother was saying. I don't know if he knows the scripture, but when you open up the scriptures, it tells you that it was a choice, and I look at it from a scriptural aspect. So on that note, when God told us he will bless us with all these things that we would do if we would listen to him, and then on the opposite side it says that we would be cursed if we didn't do all these things. When he was speaking, as soon as it came out of his mouth, I was like, wow, this brother is talking about the scriptures. That's immediately what it came to my mind. And like I said, I can't agree with anything that he's done in his past, but from that point, I said, this brother is speaking scripture. You know what I'm saying?
For me, and this is Ericka, but for me, just in general, in today's time, we are inundated with a lot of information, and we're inundated with this information and asked to respond quickly. I was told that I was mad at Kanye before I even knew what Kanye said. Can you believe this? And Kanye did this and Kanye did that. And aren't you upset? Well, I need to know what Kanye said. I was given a snippet. I was told Kanye said slavery was a choice. Yeah, that right there would have me hot because slavery wasn't a choice. I did not sign up for that. That is not clear. However, when I listened to portions, I did not listen to the full explanation, but when I listened to portions of what he said, I believe he was asking a question. He said, that sounds like a choice, doesn't it? 400 years of slavery, that sounds like a choice. As I understand, slavery in the Jamestown colonies began in 1619. 400 years later will be 2019. So that's around present day. So if slavery is still going on 400 years later, even with the laws that have been passed, it would be a choice, is what I believe Kanye was saying. And if he was saying that with the audience that he had at the time, it was not the proper place to try to say that because there's so much explanation that needs to go behind that. You can't just make that statement and walk away or ask that question and walk away. You need to be clear as to why you said it. If he had time to explain himself and that was the train of thought he was going with, maybe we would have more fully received it or more better received what he said. However, a headline of Kanye said slavery was a choice, it's like we are told be mad at Kanye. We're told be mad at Roseanne Barr, be mad at Trump, be mad at... Don't tell me how to feel. Give me the information, allow me to process it, and then form my own opinion. It's just in this day and time, the news media, the entertainment world, and even our leaders are telling us how we are supposed to feel about certain things. And unfortunately, in this microwave society where everything is so instant, we no longer think for ourselves. Kanye wants to appear as someone who is a free thinker, who has his own opinion. He wants to sound so profound. But brother, no, sometimes you need to hold that opinion. You need to formulate that thought before you put it out there. Because microwave society does not forget.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Corey, what about you? Where do you stand on this issue and Kanye West?
Well, first of all, I'm not a fan of Kanye's music. I'm not a fan of his lifestyle. I used to listen to his music maybe 10 years back, and he does have some, old music that, I'm familiar with, but I'm not, a fan of Kanye. With that said, when I first heard, the TMZ snippet of supposedly what he said, me personally, I'm the kind of person I like to hear what someone said in its entirety before I make a judgment on it. I'm not going to go based on what somebody said. I want to hear it for myself, because what I notice today in the media is the media doesn't give you something raw.
Okay, we have Mike joining us. We have Ericka back. We're waiting on Corey and Ahchwan. Okay, joining us now, we have Corey. We're just waiting on Ahchwan. Okay, he's connected.
All right.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so we were listening to Corey's opinion before we unfortunately got cut off, but everyone's back in the group, so welcome back. Sorry for the technical difficulties we're having here. We're trying to figure this podcast out, but Corey, you may continue.
I was just saying that, with the whole TMZ thing, I feel like basically when we listen to anything from the media, we can't listen to it the same way we would listen to a song, like listen to it for entertainment. We can't listen to it. We can't be selective listeners when we're listening to something. A lot of people listen with selective ears, basically. Like, they take something that the media says and they basically take what they want to hear from it. That's selective listening, as opposed to taking the entire message and trying to receive what the speaker is saying. Some people take things and they're offended over what this particular person said without actually listening to the message. A lot of people didn't even listen to the actual interview. They saw somebody share the post on Facebook and they got offended at the headline. They didn't even listen to it. You know what I'm saying? So my whole thing is that if we're going to try to understand someone, we have to listen to what they say, the entire message, and not take a headline or listen to a clip. With that said, my personal opinion, I actually agree with Kanye on the 400-year aspect being a choice. The reason being is chattel slavery ended about 250 years after we were brought to America in the first place. From that point, we had 150 years in which, we were chain free, and we kind of actually assumed the role of our own slave master, in my opinion. Like, if you look at it today,
Corey, can you bring that back in?
Back then we were killed for what, Corey?
Can y'all hear him?
No, I can't hear any sound.
No, I can.
But he brought up something interesting that I'd like to ask, and maybe the others can answer.
Today, a lot of us choose to be
willingly ignorant. Go ahead, Eric.
Today.
I'm sorry. Selective listening. I heard Corey mention that. At what point, or who is to blame? Is it the messenger or the listener? Because the messenger controls what he says, but he cannot control what we hear. We will choose to hear what we want to hear. So who's at fault? Is it Kanye for what he said, or us for what we chose to hear?
Well, it's that old adage, don't shoot the messenger. And I feel like Corey was right in the sense that, we do have the selective hearing, and I think that we as Black folks especially put ourselves in a position to where we become sensitive to a lot of things, and this is just an everyday life aspect. We become sensitive to certain things that are said that automatically trigger certain things within us to where now our ears are turned off, which is exactly what was going on with the people around me as I was sitting down and I was watching the TMZ live with him in the studio. I actually kind of got into it with one of my good friends, and he was telling me that I was down with Trump and everybody else for saying, hold on, like, let's process what the man is saying and what he's trying to say. And it's one of those things where when we're offended, we automatically don't want to hear anything. And that goes when we're talking probably to our parents when we're children, or, when we're having a sports debate about LeBron James and Michael Jordan. It's kind of like and everything in between, we just kind of shut off what it is that we don't want to hear, which is really sad, because if you are taking his words and you're actually putting them into the context of what he was speaking on, then you understand where the mental part of that slavery statement would come from. And I think that people tend to bash Kanye, and I've seen all over the internet, people kind of put free thought in quotes, and they laugh at it and everything. But if we're really not using our minds to really engage in a conversation, whether it's about slavery or whether it's about women's rights or what have you, what ends up happening is that we never get to that understanding for us as our own people where we need to get to.
I personally think that Kanye is actually dealing with some kind of inner turmoil. And I definitely don't think that he has the support that he needs around him. Oftentimes when you have artists and they're very creative, they often go to these dark places so that they can produce, the music that they want to produce. Others who may make music, they may go to a place emotionally, and it might take them into a space to where they're very vulnerable. Their thoughts might be jumbled. They might not be able to, express themselves but through the music. I think when Kanye made those statements about, the condition of African Americans or Black people, whichever term you'd like to use, I honestly think that he wasn't really aware of what he was saying. He was just spewing out verbiage. But to those who understood the deeper meaning of that, slavery goes beyond physical and chattel slavery. It goes to your mind. And quite honestly, it's not just Black folks being mentally enslaved in this time and age. Like Ericka brought up, we're being told what to think. And everywhere you turn, you have someone shaping and forming your opinions and your thoughts. And the most interesting part of his conversation was free thought. And in order for us to come up out of any kind of mental enslavement that we may be dealing with, we have to free our minds first. And the problem I have with a lot of Black people is that we fail to look at ourselves. We want to focus on what white people are doing to us, and we want to focus on racism coming from every side, but we don't want to look at ourselves. And I think as black folks, like we come across as if we're victims all the time. And that's the one thing that I don't like. It's like, on one hand, we're victims, and then on the other hand, we behave like a battered woman who can't seem to leave this particular man who's just abusing her. We can't stand on our own. And of course, not all of it is our fault. We do have systemic oppression. We have racism in corporations, and we are battling against a lot. But in order to heal, healing is going to start from within first. We really need to take a look at ourselves and see how we are contributing to our own condition, how we are destroying ourselves, whether it's through our diet, whether it's through spirituality. We're not connected to the Most High. We're not connected to our source of power. We're not reading. We're not educating ourselves. Outside of Black women, statistically are the most educated group. but what are we actually doing with that education? Are we taking that education and filtering it back into our communities? Or are we being, I'm black woman, I am black woman, hear me roar? What exactly are we doing to actually build our communities up? We're just I think we're focused on the wrong thing. So when Kanye said what he said, it was kind of like you got punched with the truth and the truth hurt. So instead of accepting what he's saying and actually thinking about what he said in context, it's the first thing we do is we get mad and we want to shift blame instead of self-evaluating, our own condition and how we're contributing to that. And that's where I stand on the issue.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right, sis. And I think that that's what when I first heard the brother speaking, it like I said, it drew me strictly to the scriptures, and I was like, wow, this brother, for him to be in the industry and go through everything he's going through, and to say something so profound as what he said. Mm-hmm. Because when you said we don't look at ourselves, and you said we're not educated enough, like the prophet Hosea said, we suffer for the lack of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And the thing we suffer for, and I'm not talking about knowledge of this world or knowledge, because we got, as black people today, we have education.
That's right.
We have degrees. But when you come to when the brother said, listen, there was a choice. God gave us a choice. He said, listen, if you listen to me and follow my laws, statutes, and commandments, you will be above all nations of the world. This is in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. Mm-hmm. 15, he says, if you don't listen to me, you will have all of these curses placed upon you. Now, if you look at all of, and I'm not saying black people, I'm not saying individually, I'm saying as a nation of black people, so-called African American, quote unquote, we are cursed above all races of the earth. Mm-hmm. Now, you have like your Kanye, he's rich, you know what I'm saying? And we have Michael George. We have our ones who have money and they have a little wealth or a little piece of wealth. But when it comes to a nation of people, we are under a curse. Because
How do you speak to the person who has no knowledge of the scriptures, or who's not connected to any type of spirituality, who's just looking at our condition and just seeing what they see without connecting those dots?
I was going to say, in regards to what you said, because you said something very key earlier, like we don't look at the self-inflicted damage, when it comes to our struggles, our, where we are as a people. I feel like we pay too much attention to what white people do. And on one breath, we'll say we're gods, we're this, we're that. You have people out there saying that. But then on the other hand, we're complaining about all this stuff that white people are doing to us, as if we can't control, our own situation. You get what I'm saying? Like, when I look at things, I look first and foremost at the person in the mirror. Like, if I'm going to look at a black person that's complaining about killing, I'm going to say, are you killing your own?
Yeah.
Situation today, and let's like. It's a situation where we have to be honest. I want to go back to what white people do. Every 4 days, we kill enough babies in an abortion clinic. We kill more babies in an abortion clinic than the KKK killed in 144 years. If we're going to keep it real, back in the day, we were, the men, the women, the children, they were separated forcibly. But our men, our women today, we walking out on each other like it's nothing. Like a man could have a family and walk out on the family like it's nothing and go on and start another family. Like that kind of stuff. If you want to talk about it, we used to get prostituted out by the slave masters and stuff like that. We do this stuff willfully today. Like on what white people do.
Yeah. That actually brings up several different points. I believe, Steph, you were going to ask, how do you reach a person who isn't connected through the scriptures, who doesn't know that the scripture tells of this curse and different things like that, because you will have people say, if there was a God, why would he allow slavery? If there was a God, why would he allow these different things to have happened to our ancestors? But because there is a God, and because he let the prophets come tell us of the things that were to come, we should rest in knowing that everything that happens today is happening according to what he said would happen. It should give us solace, because he gave us not only the process that we would go through, but also the result in which we would be victorious if we did these things. He gave us the guidelines, so now it's just a matter of falling in line. Now, for those who cannot grasp that part and only be caught up in what is actually taking place today, or what has happened to our ancestors over the last few years or few centuries, those people are focused on what happened rather than what our role is in what happened. And we have to understand the conditioning is worse than slavery. The condition continued. Clear after enslavement was illegal, the conditioning, we were still, the day slavery was no longer legal, that day there were still mothers still teaching their kids how to be safe Negroes, how to not antagonize. And those people went on to have children, explaining to them, don't antagonize the white man. And it just keeps going and going. Now, little by little, we are becoming more and more free, but there are still people out there who are teaching their kids how to stay in line, make sure you get a good job and hold on to it, and make sure you we don't teach our kids to be entrepreneurial or to go out beyond what America says you're supposed to have because you're black. We are still conditioned and training and conditioning our kids to only get this far, or if you get a degree, or what has the recent conversation been? The black woman is so powerful, she can do it by herself. No. The black woman was the power and backbone of the black family, but the black woman together is a team that is unstoppable with God on their side.
Exactly. Okay, so on that note, what we'll do is Ahchwan will take a break, and then we'll come back and start with you, and you can come in with your points. So we'll just take a quick break, and we'll have a word with our advertisers, and we'll come back, and we'll see you in a second. Okay.
Oh yeah. coming back. Oh, see them coming back. The kings of the earth be coming back. See them coming back. Luciano coming back. Oh, see them coming back. Morgan Heritage coming back. Oh, see them coming back. The Lord and He be coming back. Hey. And see, I let my people go. Australia, let my people go. Andaman Islands, if you pay, they will show you Jarawa. They will show you Jarawa. Africa, welcome. Africa, welcome. Africa, welcome. Israel, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Israel, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, Israel. Oh, see them coming back. Dave Chappelle is coming back. Oh, see them coming back. Bob Marley coming back. Oh, see them coming back. Chris Rock, my brother, coming back. John Kashindi coming back. Teresa Kempi coming back. Oh, come and get this water. Woo. Come and get this mercy. Israel, wake up, wake up, wake up. The king is coming back. Judah, wake up, wake up, wake up. Your lion is coming back. Amalekite soldiers, slaying sons of Jacob. Amalekite soldiers, waging war on Zion. Amalekite soldiers, singing Maranatha. Amalekite soldiers, waiting for your Shire. Oh, see him coming back. Riding on the cloud, I'm coming back. Oh, see him coming back. The Lion of Judah coming back. Oh, see him coming back. The King of Israel coming back. Oh, see him coming back. The King of creation coming back. Oh, see him coming back. Yeshua coming back. Oh, see him coming back. Savior coming back. Oh, see him coming back. The King of the nations coming back. See him coming back. See him coming back. Oh.
Success is attained when effort is put forth. Your life is your business. Why not make it a success? PD360 LLC is your source for professional and personal life coaching. Let someone help you discover and reach your goals, build your legacy, and live the life you actually want. Contact your life coach today, Robin LaCroix, at IHaveQuestions at pd4u360.com or call 443-914-2941. Again, that number is 443-914-2941.
Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us. So we left off with a couple of comments, and we're going to go ahead and start with Brother Ahchwan.
Okay, it was a lot of comments that were said, and I was agreeing with Corey when he said that our people today we're destroying ourselves. He was like, we're the number one for abortions and things of this nature. And I was speaking about what Kanye said about relating to the scriptures. and if I could, I would just read a couple of these things, because Corey, he mentioned, how would I relay this to a brother or a sister who doesn't know stuff? But if you read it clearly, it's speaking about a certain people who are the lowest on the earth, and it's about a nation of people who are below every other nation of people. So if I was to talk to a brother or sister who know a little bit about history, know about slave ships and things of that nature, and pertain it to what Kanye was speaking about, I would first start off with Deuteronomy 28:68. It says, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships." Now, if anyone knows about Moses and any of the prophets, they would know that he didn't go on any ships. That's first and foremost. And we also know that Egypt pertains to slavery. What were the Israelites doing? They were being slaves in Egypt. Okay, what did we come over here to America on? Slave ships. So that would be the first scripture I would go to. I would say, brother, okay, well, we came to this America, this new land, this new world, as they call it, on ships. It says, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt not see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold into your enemies. Well, when we came over here on those ships, were those people that brought us over here on those ships, were those our friends? You know what I'm saying? So, okay, that would be first thing. They were our enemies. It says, you will be sold to your enemies for bondmen and women. Then I would jump over and say, okay, so if we were sold on those ships to bond as bondmen and bondwomen, then that has to be talking about the lowest of the people that's on the bottom right now. Check this one out. This is verse 30. Now I'm going to do some jumping around real quick because I just want to grasp the attention. And this is how I would talk to one of my brothers and sisters who don't have any knowledge. I would say, then I would jump to verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. Thy eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the days long. And there shall be no might in thy hand. That has to be talking about us. It's talking about us being sold to different people, and our daughters and sons sold to different people. Then this is verse 41. It says, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. This is verse 46. And they shall be upon thee a sign and a wonder upon thy seed forever. So have we now? We not being sold to nobody right now, but like he said, it's a choice. God gave us the choice to choose if we was going to serve him or not. Let me go jump to verse 49. It says, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far. Well, when those people came and got us from Africa, did they come from Africa to pick us up? No, they came from Europe. Okay, let me jump around. I'm gonna give a couple more scriptures and then I'll be finished to let someone else speak about it. This is verse 30, and this is pertaining directly to what Corey said about how we sleep with our women. You know, we have a chick and we'll leave our house and go sleep with another woman and things of that nature. This is verse 30 of Deuteronomy chapter 28. It says, thou shalt betroth a wife and another man shall lie with her. Okay, let me get one more. And then I'll let it free. Let it be free for you guys. This is the last one. Verse 37. Thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee. That byword, that astonishment, that proverb, those are those words that we are called today. Back in the day when we was coming out of slavery, they called us cullets and coons. And, you know, we are
the
called
N-word.
Yeah, the N-word. I didn't want to go there, but thank you. That N-word. That's that byword. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would show one of my brothers and sisters who don't have any knowledge of the scriptures, and I would relate it to what Kanye's trying to say, because he said something so profound. But we have to know how to link it up with the book so we can say, okay, well, this brother, maybe he don't know how to say it, but he's saying something that we did choose. We chose this because if we did, we would have been over all of the nations of the world. We would have been the richest. We would have been lending to anyone. Instead, we have to go get a payday loan just to pay our bills and things of this nature. So I understand that.
We would have been Wakanda forever.
You know, speaking of Wakanda, you know, Michael B. Jordan, he said in the movie, you know, bury me in the water with my ancestors, because they knew death was better than bond.
Yeah.
And like, even if you look at it from the chattel slavery aspect and saying that chattel slavery was a choice, which wasn't what Kanye said, even if we want to look at it from that point, even chattel slavery, once we got to this land, our ancestors did have a choice whether or not to fight or die. Like, look at the Haitians. The Haitians fought back and the Haitians liberated themselves. They kicked the French. You know, they were condemned to poverty, but still had their livelihood and they had their freedom. You know, with us, we kind of like, our ancestors chose a different route. You know, not saying it was a bad thing, because, you know, survival in a lot of cases is, you know, better than death. But at the same time, it's just saying that in everything you have a choice.
Well,
You know, so
I
that's
would
just all I had to
actually
say.
disagree with you there. Only in the aspect of, just as you said with the Haitians, they fought and had the French leave their home. Yeah, if you run up in my house, I'll probably fight you, and we're gonna go a couple rounds to get you kicked out of my house. Now, if you've house and I'm in your yard and you're like, all right, conform, and I'll let you continue living, or you could fight me here, maybe you'll win, but you're still in my house. You know, once they got us over here, the fight was over. If we were to fight them, we should have fought them in Africa. If we couldn't fight them there, once we got here, it was a matter of the strongest one who's fighting back, kill them in front of everybody else, and everybody else will fall in line. Just as everybody is, as Colin Kaepernick is getting persecuted in front of all the other NFL players, they all fall in line. It's a choice, but how much of a choice is it really when you've already taken me out of my homeland and I have to live here? I kind of gotta fall in line. It's not a real choice.
I would say as well, like, even when you do look at the Haitians, like, the Haitians were also brought over to Haiti. Like, the Haitians, they came from Africa as well. But it's just like, you know, when they got to Haiti, it's like, okay, well, we here. What are we gonna do? You know, are we gonna be slaves, or, you know, we gonna die? And it's kind of like a psychological thing, because if you think about it, even when you look at the Willie Lynch letter, like, the logical aspect of what to do to create a slave, and, you know, it was all based on fear. Like, what we have to do is instill fear in them. We want to make them think that we're gonna kill them all, but at the same time, you know, we can't kill them all. This is our wealth, basically. We kill all the slaves, we don't have anything. You get what I'm saying? They're the ones that's gonna build everything. So, like, even if we did fight back, we did outnumber them in a lot of cases. Granted, we probably didn't have weapons, but we had enough people to afford to lose a few to be able to take those weapons or do whatever to fight back. But at the end of the day, we chose the route we chose, and we're here today, and it's.
But see, that kind of gets into that victim mentality
where
I'm sorry, I may have been cutting you off. I couldn't hear you. No, I was saying that that's probably some of that victim mentality as well, because we still talk with a defeated tongue sometimes. Like, it is what it is. Yeah. So we have to kind of deal with what we have. Why deal with what we have when we are empowered to create a new reality? We can actually form our own reality and make people adjust to our world. Yeah. We don't have to just, it is what it is, you know?
You know, this kind of reminds me, I read a quote. I don't think Harriet Tubman actually said it, because I fact checked it, but there was a quote that was floating around on the internet where she supposedly said, I freed 1,000 slaves, and I could have freed 1,000 more if they only knew they were slaves. So to say that we could have, you know, like Nat Turner goes up against, you know, slave masters, plantation owners, and whatnot. Also, you have to understand that when you're born into a certain condition, you accept it for what it is, because that's all you know. Like, if you grow up rich, you can't relate to the person who's poor, because all you know is wealth. If you grow up poor, you can't relate to the person who's rich, because all you know is your poverty. And so when you have people who say, like, we could just rise, we could have fought, that spirit doesn't fall upon everyone. It doesn't fall upon everyone. You have some people who are satisfied with being complacent. What's the word? Yeah, that's right. You have some people who are just complicit. Excuse me. You have some people who are just satisfied with their conditions because they don't know any better. So they think that whatever condition they're in is right or wrong. They just don't think about it. It's just what it is for them.
House ninjas versus field ninjas.
Yes.
We all still ninjas.
Niggas at the end of the day. Still
Well,
nigga.
I think something that is very important when we talk about this subject, and obviously, we talk about it being written, if you will. I find that having discussions like this with a lot of our brothers and sisters turns into a thing where they start to question, or I shouldn't say they question it, because clearly they are against some form of religion, whether it be Christianity, Islam, whatever. Okay. And what tends to happen is that instead of people being able to take the word and being able to find their own knowledge within it. Like, I mean, picking up a book, I mean, the only way that you're going to be able to understand the book is if you actually sit down and read the book. And no matter how slowly you read it, you go through it and you comprehend, or you easily comprehend what's being written. Or if you don't comprehend what's being written, it leads to more questions for you. And then you have to do the work and go and research or reach out to mentors or whatever the case may be. And the more that we have these conversations in the 21st century, it seems that more people aren't aligned with anything that they're trying to reach, and they really don't know who they are outside of them being Michael or Corey or Steph or Ericka, whoever. And it's kind of one of those things that when you want to speak to people, we end up in this situation where we wash our hands of one another because, well, if you're coming to me and you're trying to get me to understand something on a higher level, and then I say to you,
Okay, we have Ericka. Okay, we have Brother Ace.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We have Brother Corey. Corey, are you able to hear?
Yeah, I can hear y'all.
Okay.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
you're clear. Ericka,
right.
you clear?
Yes.
We're waiting on Brother Mike. I guess they didn't like what he had to say. They didn't like what he had to say. They said no.
I got uppity. They had to shut y'all down.
They wasn't ready. They didn't like that.
No.
They didn't like that.
So I think there's a lot of truth coming through this thing tonight. That's why they keep shutting it off.
Big Brother's is tuned. We're waiting for the brother to come back in. Let me see if I can pull him in personally. But yeah, it's really good that we're having this discussion because a lot of people may be reached. I honestly don't think that there are a lot of Black people that I don't really think they consider their condition. I think what they consider, are things that are a vanity, like their clothes, their cars, their houses, the girl they got on their arm, or the man they got on their arm, how much money they got, whether they smoking weed or doing whatever it is that they're doing. I really don't think that they consider their situation because, we, like Ericka used, I like the term that she coined, we're in a microwave society. We get everything quick and fast. We're not used.
Yep.
Okay. Brother Mike, you with us?
yes, I'm here.
I agree.
Okay. It just, it cut off. They didn't like what you were saying, but you're going to bring that truth, and we here.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I just find overall that there's a disconnect, and people are lazy and they don't want to do the work for themselves. I was brought up in a day and age where, my grandfather would always tell me from the time that I was in kindergarten, that, school is cool and you're there to, get your education the way that it's prescribed by the educational system. But, when the school bell rings and you get out of school, there's life still all around you. And the only way that you're going to really be educated is if you seek out the things that you see and that make you question, so that you can get more of an understanding of how life works and an understanding of yourself, which leads you to a deeper purpose. hopefully. And a lot of people. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, brother, please.
Oh no, I was just saying, and a lot of people are missing that. So when we get to a topic, such as this, and then when we mention, the good word, and we mention things being written and what's already laid out for us, you hear people, talk about fiction, and they talk about, a white Jesus, or something else that basically is easily dismissible for them, so that they can just kind of go on with whatever it is that they're already thinking. You can't change a tiger's stripes. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, and all those things. And we have this thing within us to where one half of us believe in something, and it seems like the other half of us don't, which leads to this cast of thought and ideas.
Yeah, we're despondent. We're very despondent. We don't have any hope. We don't have anyone to look up to. No righteous beings to look up. At least in the ancient days, they had the prophets. They had Solomon. They had David. They had men of valor. Men of upstanding. Morals and values. We don't have that these days. At least before. After the death of Malcolm X, Martin Garvey, Martin Luther King, we don't have these kinds of role models anymore. We don't.
Yeah, because most of them are sold out.
Yeah.
Even what's the guy name?
Farrakhan.
Yeah.
Jesse Jackson.
Yeah, all of these, they sold out. They've done it for the riches. It's not about the people anymore. They make it seem like that, but it's not about the people. And honestly, to tie it back to Kanye, I think that he did it in a very wise way. I don't think that he knew what he was actually saying when he said it. But look at the conversation that we're having tonight. We're having a conversation about what he said. You know what I'm saying? And it brought out so many different outlooks from us. And it brought the scriptures into it. So I think that what he said was profound, and it touched the ears, and it may have hurt some people. And some people, like I said, some people agree, some people didn't agree. But when you look at the scriptures and you bring scriptures into that, I think if he would have said, "Well, this is in the Bible," people would have stopped listening.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's so many people out there who don't care about the Bible. We got Muslims. We got so many. They got satanic religions. They got Scientology religions. They got all these different type of things that's going on in society today. You know what I'm saying? And people would have shut their ears off. I think even TMZ would have probably, interrupted him and said, "Okay, well, brother, we're going to have to go to a commercial break," because when you start bringing that word in there, it's a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
Well, let's be very careful
I
here.
agree with you.
Are we sure that he was speaking scripturally?
I don't think that he was. I don't think that he was. I don't think he even knew what he was saying. I think he was just going on an emotional rant. But I do think that he was being used at that time by the Most High to put something in the minds of his people.
Exactly.
Okay. Now that I can agree with. As far as some of the other statements that you guys were giving, I have to say, I won't say playing devil's advocate, but just being Ericka. I was in a church that was what we call interdenominational. We really didn't follow any one method or any one plan. We welcomed everyone. But I have to admit, as I've grown older, I look at some of the teachings and realize that it was almost like an indoctrination. We were
There's some things that I wanted to say with these nails, and some places that I wanted to go, but these nails keep on holding me. I'm crucified with Christ, cause these nails keep reminding me. Father, I can't take it no longer. Father, I just wanna be stronger. No, no, it's not I, but it's Christ inside of me. I can't do my own will, cause I love him too much. I am bought with the price. Yeshua gave his life. That's why I love him so much. My love for him is so strong that it hurts every time I do wrong. I'm crucified with Christ, and these nails keep on holding me, keep on holding me. I'm crucified with Christ, cause these nails keep holding me. Father, I can't take it no longer. Father, I just wanna be stronger. Got me nailed down. I'm not wavering, not moving. Those nails made me think now. Got me nailed down. I'm not wavering, not moving. Those nails made me think now. Sitting in my face, but those nails gonna keep me in place. These nails in my feet. When I wanna go left, they make me wanna go right. Thank you for the nails in his feet. Help me to stand up, yeah, you walk right. Thank you for the nails. When I wanna fight these nails, they keep on holding me. Every day I'm fighting me. Every day I'm fighting me. When I wanna do wrong, these nails. I'm crucified with Christ, cause these nails keep reminding me. That's something that I want to say, these nails. And some Father, I can't take it no longer. Father, I just wanna be stronger. I'm crucified, 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 crucified with Christ. I'm crucified, 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 crucified with Christ. I'm crucified with Christ, cause these nails keep on holding me.
Welcome back to the Project Discourse podcast. Thank you all for joining us in this conversation on mental enslavement.
The devil is.
I'm telling you, he a lie. He didn't. As soon as you said your interdenominational church, he was like,
The devil is a lie. I'm gonna get this thing out.
Get out. Get that thought out.
Nah.
We waiting on Brother Mike and Brother Corey. Yeah. They as soon as you said that, I said no.
Wakanda ninjas and interdenominational drop. Drop it like a song.
They dropped it like that.
They did that. But no, I mean, and hopefully, actually, Brother Ahchwan, I believe you can answer this one until the other ones get here. But having been brought up in the church and pretty much being indoctrinated into certain beliefs, as I've grown older, I realized that some of those beliefs were not quite scripture. It kind of made me, it rocked my core, because my belief foundation is what I was taught in that church. And then some of that stuff just is not right. Or they ran off a feeling, or ran off what felt good for saying. And it's not that anyone intentionally wanted to mislead. It's just that given the education of some of the people who were ministering to us, they didn't follow absolutely what the scripture said. And now as I'm learning what the scripture actually said, I'm like, well, how much of this did I believe because I was told to believe it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I came from the same understanding as well, sis. And you know, that's why after reteaching myself and digging into scripture and actually reading the Bible, because I know a lot of people. When I grew up. I can say 16. Well, I've been in church all my life, but from the age of 16 to 26, that was 10 years. I didn't know anything. You could, you know, I knew the you know, basic scriptures that Christians quote, but I didn't know anything about the book. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know what David did. I didn't know what Christ did. I didn't know nothing.
Right.
I was just going to church. I got the good feeling, you know.
I bet you had an Easter suit every year.
Let me tell you, brand new.
Everything going on, y'all. I didn't know anything, but I would go to church faithfully on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna tell you, it was so bad, sis, that I would after church, I'd go roll me a blunt and get high. This is how off I was.
But that's normal, though. That's the thing. That's normal.
I think a lot of what you guys said, you know, y'all made some valid points. But like going back to what Mike was saying, I think, you know, a lot of the issue, it falls back on, you know, in the beginning I talked about selective listening. You know, a lot of things get bad raps today without people actually studying it for themselves. For example, you know, the Bible, you know, there are a lot of people who have bad experiences with the Bible based on teachings that they got in the church, things like that. I think all of us could probably relate because, like, coming out of the church and things like that, we can all point back to something that somebody told us was in the Bible. Like, for example, white Jesus. White Jesus is nowhere to be found in the Bible, but that's something we were taught. Right. Or, you know, Sunday worship, for example. Like, these are things we were taught. So when we came to find out that these things aren't true, we just threw away the whole Bible instead of looking at it and reading it for ourselves and taking what's good from it. Because, like, if you just take what's good from it, for example, it basically has everything you need. If we're looking at the laws, for example, the 10 Commandments, if black people followed the 10 Commandments, religion aside, everything else aside, we wouldn't have the problems we had in our communities. I wouldn't have anybody trying to steal from me. I wouldn't have anybody trying to sleep with my wife. I wouldn't have anybody trying to murder me. I wouldn't have anybody doing these things. You get what I'm saying? And then there are other aspects of law.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's important too, because, you know, like, you know, we have so many people, like I said earlier, we have a lot of people who are not
civil law,
connected,
you got dietary law,
spiritually.
All these things
they're
are
not
beneficial.
connected to any spiritual entity.
Right.
Learning more and more daily that we have so many black folks that identify as agnostic or atheist. And that is something that's unheard of in our community. When I was growing up, I'm 39 years old. When I was growing up, I'd never heard of a black atheist or someone who was agnostic. Being black means you were connected to God. Regardless of your circumstance, you knew who God was, and every day on Sunday, you went to meet him.
Big Mama, yes.
Let me tell you, there was no way we wasn't about to be in church. And we was in church all day long. Church was, you know, the pillar of our community, you know, and our pastors were honest. Our pastors, they led, you know, their sheep in truth. They led them with grace. They led them with mercy. They kept their men upright. They held their women to a higher standard. Now you got the pastor sleeping with other men's wives. You got the pastor stealing the congregation's money. You got Creflo Dollar out here trying to go and buy jets. So, of course, black people nowadays are looking at the church as they look at the government, crooked. And there's no trust. So I posed the question to the panel, for the black person, you know, male or female, to the black person who does not identify with any kind of spiritual connection to God, be it Christian, Muslim, Buddhism, what have you, agnostic or atheist. How do we reach those people? How do we get them to look at themselves? Because I know a lot of people go to therapy and they try to figure out themselves how to heal and overcome difficulties. How do we reach our people? There have to be other avenues that we can use to bring them back to what we once were. We were our strongest, I think, in the 60s when we came together during the civil rights movement.
For me.
So how do we bring them together? How do we bring them back to that fighting spirit that Malcolm and, you know, the Black Panther Party and Martin Luther King, how do we bring them back to that?
Well, I will say, first of all, going back to Kanye real quick, during that TMZ tirade or rant, whatever we want to call it, the brother said that he immediately thought of Kanye, you know, speaking to the scripture. And it's interesting because at a point during that conversation, religion was actually, you know, brought up, and, you know, he was asking a white girl that was talking to him, you know, about Scientology and why isn't Scientology respected and all of that. I think that, or at least I would hope that, I mean, hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Me being a God-fearing man, I would hope that other people would somehow, even if they don't necessarily believe in a religion, that they would understand that they were put here somehow, you know. But I think, again, that comes from not having just an understanding of nature and who we are, and really it takes education to understand and to be able to actually look in the mirror and know where you come from and who you are and what you're trying to be. And when you live in a world where, especially this microwave type of world that we live in today, where everybody can kind of give you, you know, instant heartache or instant gratification of some sort, it's easier for people to dismiss something that they can't. It's easier now for people to dismiss something that they can't see than it really has been. You know, people look at slavery, for example, and they look at, you know, the Bible being given to us and hymns and things of this nature as if it's some sort of fake appeasement that was given to us in order for us to accept the fact that we were in bondage and in chains, more than they're looking at it as they should, at least in my perspective, as having something that gives them some extra comfort within themselves. Because, as you said, you know, people really don't have anything that they feel they can grasp onto or hold on to. But also at the same time, within that, we lose those leaders that you spoke of, and none have been replenished, at least that we know of, simply because nobody's been able to do the dirty work for themselves and look inside themselves and realize that there is a vast amount of knowledge and evidence that proves that we can be exactly what it is that we're supposed to be. But if people really don't understand what they're supposed to be on an individual basis, they're not going to look to the next man to give them that knowledge, especially if the first thing that a person says to them usually is, we should pray more, or, we should adhere to, these laws, which should be human laws.
Right.
For example, speaking on the commandments, I mean, for me, when you think about the commandments, those are just basic human laws. Like, no, we shouldn't kill, we shouldn't steal, we shouldn't lie, we shouldn't, covet thy neighbor's wife. We shouldn't do all of these things. All of these things, when you grow up and you're an adult, you say to yourself, yeah, that makes sense. Right. But then at the same time, adults will question so many other things and not really give themselves that common sense because they're afraid of that change. Because if you make those changes and you are really sitting down, you're honest with yourself, then you could really begin to teach yourself and you can take yourself to another level. And honestly, people are comfortable where they are. People are immune to and desensitized to the rat race. And there's excuses. I mean, we make excuses for why we stay at the same job for 20 years. And we make excuses why we stay in the same toxic and volatile relationships. All of these things have an impact to where at the end of the day, nobody is really sitting down anymore and having that time with themselves to where they can focus and go inward and really find the answers that they're looking for.
You said something about, African Americans, Black folk not knowing who they are. That's very key, because in order to get somewhere, you have to know who you are. How do we even address that issue? Because that's an issue within itself.
Well,
I got three quick points based off of what the gentleman just said. One thing that we have to know, and you will hear an atheist even say this, in times of stress, Lord help, or Jesus, or God help. There is, in the back of all of our minds, there is some type of either a wonder or even an absolute that there is something bigger out there, and it's to that bigger person, that bigger entity that we look for support. Now, gathering the atheists and helping them understand that bigger support is the Almighty God, and that He has a plan and an actual path for their life will help them not feel as aimless. But a lot of people have turned to atheism simply because religion is so hate-filled today. It's discriminatory. So you can't be us, or you can't be Christian, or you can't be this because you do this, and this. And it's so much pointed toward the fear and the hate. It makes people not want to be a part of it. So gathering people and turning them toward the love of Christ and actually what His love can do for their lives would probably be a better solution. And also know that it's for the Black atheists society, because the home is broken. Do you realize that today, if you try to put together a protest such as boycotting the buses, like I live in Montgomery, Alabama, the bus boycott that happened here probably could not happen today, because a lot of that grassroots movement happened at Big Mama's table after Sunday dinner, after everybody came in from church, or the meeting at the church. It's just the church was the foundation of the community. Everything revolved over that. And now when you get the people out of the church, you get the fathers out of the home, when you can break that unit down, you can more easily distract each of the individual members of that unit. So we must first gather our family and go to church as a family. It's no longer about just me getting the knowledge. Make sure our families are getting it, our communities are getting it, that we tie back into that power source so that we feel connected. Because right now we're aimless. We're just kind of out here doing our own thing, living our own way. Atheism is the way to go, because you don't have to commit or adhere to anything. It's lazy. It's lazy. We need to tie everybody back into the power source. My idea, anyway.
Well, can I piggyback off of that, sister?
Yes.
Okay. It's one thing that Stephanie said that really touched home. She said that people, we don't know who we are, and maybe the brother who said that, but I think that is a very a point where we can touch bases. This is a common ground, because we all think we're Black, we all think we're African American, which I don't see how we can be from two continents. But I can say this: by getting a person to realize who they are, will bring them to the knowledge of truth, will bring them to understanding and recognizing where they can start from. Because right now, it's like we're on a wild goose chase for just money and fame and trying to just have a decent life in this world that we're living in today. And like you said, we're losing self, we're losing knowledge of God and understanding, and we're becoming atheists. But to my brothers and sisters, the black brothers and sisters, that's what I would start with first, because they the ones who are lost the most. I would first get them to understand that, first of all, you're a king, you're a queen, and I can prove it through scriptures. And before I would go to the scriptures, I would tell them, look at the world today. Look at what's going on in the world. We're getting shot down in the street. We can't even go to Starbucks and use the restroom without the police locking us up. You know what I'm saying? Look at how we are. That ties in again to those curses. If you are cursed people, then that means you don't have no rights. You were brought here on slaves. You don't have any. The only way you can get yourself back is, first of all, knowing who you are, knowing who the enemy is, and knowing how to work with your enemy and against while they're trying to work against you. And I'm gonna bring it to a couple of scriptures. I'm sorry, guys, that I'm keep going into the scriptures, but hey, I like to always reference it, because when I first got the awakening of myself and who I was, and read scriptures and connected it to my life, it brought more sense to me. Because before, I didn't even read the Bible. I was like, oh, okay. I used to, do the little white Jesus thing and be like, okay. And then when I actually read this joint, and I'm like, hold up, I can connect these dots to my life. This is why I went through so much hard times in my life, and this is why I wasn't structured. And my dad died at a very young age, and I was fatherless, and all of the stuff that I went through, like the brother Core said, I've been through those type of things in my life. So for our brothers and sisters who are lost, I'm gonna take them first to Psalms 83, just to get them to understand who they are, because it says, this is Psalms 83:3. It says, "They shall take crafty counsel against thy people, and consult against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation." Well, a nation means nationality. "That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." Okay, well, who are you, brother? You call yourself black. Black is not a nationality. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it says that cut them off. Let us cut them off from being a nation. Okay, so who cut us off? It says verse 5, "For they have consulted together with one consent." Who consulted together? Let's see. "They are confederate against thee." I know I grew up in Tennessee. I see Confederate flags all the time. So who was the people who had those Confederate flags? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll jump back into that Deuteronomy 28:68. When they brought us over, our enemies brought us over here. And then I would say, okay, look at all the diseases. You had Ebola. You had all of these different type of diseases that they're bringing up on us. That ties back into the scriptures, brother. Let's go to verse 60. It says, "Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt." Okay, well, if we know about Egypt, we know that they had boils and all type of stuff that the Most High sent, allowed Moses to put upon these people for not freeing these people. It says, "Which thou was afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee." It says also, "Every sickness and every plague which is not written in this book of this law will the Lord bring upon thee, until thou be destroyed." So that means all of these diseases and sicknesses that's not even written in this book, God would allow them to be upon us, because we are not serving him. We're not trying to seek him. Like the brother said, if we could keep those just 10 commandments, but then we wouldn't have killing and sleeping with each other's wives and fatherless homes and things of that nature. This sounds like the end.
Corey, I'd like to get your opinion. What do you think would be a good avenue to reach our people? I like that the brother is bringing out the scriptures, because honestly, the scriptures, they are the pillar to our community. And definitely, everyone may not agree, but it's worth a shot. We don't have anything else to fall back on. So what do you think?
Well, I think, like, us as Black people, we really need to have like a sit down, and we have to be open and honest with one another, and we have to take emotions out of the picture, because a lot of our emotions are what cause us to back away from situations that could actually bring about progress. Like, the problem is with a lot of us, like, we can't sit down with somebody who has a differing religion or differing perspective without actually, backing away from the situation or calling them something out of their name or whatever. I just think we have to sit down. And the question that, I asked myself years ago, and others may have to ask, we may have to pose to one another, okay? We can all acknowledge we went through slavery. We can all acknowledge that, we went through oppression, we went through segregation, we went through all of these problems, okay? We all can acknowledge that, most of us, that we believe in a God. Okay, so if we do believe in a God, then we have to ask ourselves this question. If there is a God, then it means that he allowed slavery to happen, and there's a reason for it. And then on the flip side, if there is no God, then slavery happened organically, and we can't really be mad at white people, because what law is there to prevent white people from doing what they're doing or condemn them for doing what they did? This would be a world where it's each man for himself. Like, in reality, the Bible or any religious texts are the only things that actually have our back. Like, if we take these things away, everything else is just every man for himself. We can't go to white people and say slavery was wrong. What basis do we have for that argument? Are we going to go back to the Bible we say we don't agree with, to say, you can't murder, you can't enslave people, you can't do this? Because there's nothing else that really says that. The Constitution may say it, but the Constitution is based on the Bible. You get what I'm saying? So we need to do some exploring. If there is a God, why did he let this happen to us? And then we can get somewhere. And if there are those who don't believe, if there are those who don't believe in a God, we give them their chance to prove themselves. We know they're going to come up short in the first place, but just give them that chance, because in the end of the day, they're going to see with their own eyes that there is a God, there is a plan. You get what I'm saying? So my thing is, once we could get to a point where we have common ground and we can establish some kind of common law, like Mike mentioned, going back to what I said about the 10 Commandments, at the least we should have the 10 Commandments. That's just basic. Even if you're a Muslim, you're an atheist, whatever, that's basic. If we can't keep those, then nothing else we do will bring about progress. Nothing else we do. Everything else will go in vain. You get what I'm saying? And we will stay where we at. So my point is, we establish some kind of common ground. We keep the 10, and then we bring in a discussion of other things. We could deal with, differing opinions on religion and things of that nature as we go. But the 10 is something we can't compromise on. If I can get somebody to keep the 10 and see the benefit in keeping the 10, then I have a better chance to open up the Bible and get them to see everything else is there. Because there are many other great things in that book other than the 10. So that's my point.
What you say, Ericka?
I'm gonna need him to hashtag and trademark that. Keep the 10, and everybody
keep the 10. Hashtag
keep the 10. Yeah, your world will be better.
Yeah. Exactly. Take a 10. Take a 10 pill or something. So bringing it back to Ahchwan and Ericka, you can chime in too. How do we not choose slavery? How do we not choose to be enslaved?
Well, we choose that by not disobeying God's word. That's the first and foremost. First of all, like he said, if you keep the 10, how can you go wrong? Because these curses was put upon us because of the scriptures, because we disobey, because we start falling off and start serving other gods. Because I can go here. This is verse 64. It says, "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, which we were scattered, You know, we had slaves going to Europe. We had slaves going to South America. We got slaves going to the Bahamas and all different parts of the world. And it says the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods. And that's exactly what we did. When the Indians came over here, they were serving all type of gods. They had the sun god, they had the moon god, they had the god for grass and all this, but they didn't stick to the one God, because one God created all of these things that they was worshiping. It says, "What thou know thy God have known." So our ancestors know this. It says, "Even wood and stone." So that wood is that cross that we be bound down to, and that stone is that Catholic thing that the Muslims are bound down to. So our forefathers, our ancestors, didn't know about these type of things. They didn't tie a cross to Christ. They didn't tie no cobblestone to Muhammad. You know what I'm saying? They didn't do that because that's called idolatry. So if we just put down the idolatry and even religion to an extent, I don't call myself a Christian. I call myself a follower of God's word and Christ. That's what I call myself, because Christian, you think about it, when it came from the Roman Catholic Church, it was corrupt. Christ was going against the Roman Catholics. So how could Christianity even be true? That's why you have to read the book for yourself to get the understanding of how to walk in this world and understanding of self. That way you can know how to walk, because even if the Bible tells you that when you come to the word, you have to be retaught. The theologian school, they teaching you from their point of view. They teaching you from, a slave mentality point of view. They teach you from, listen, we're the superior, you're the inferior. You know what I'm saying?
And here's the thing, like you said, you just said something key. It just popped in my mind because you mentioned how Christ was against the Roman Catholic Church. But recently I went to Rome. You go into Rome, worshiping a black Christ. If you look at Michelangelo's painting of the Judgment, you look all the way down. There are two depictions of Christ on the Judgment. There's one depiction in the middle, and then if you look all the way down at the bottom, there's an itty bitty teeny little weedy black Christ at the bottom. And here in Egypt, when you go into the Coptic Christian Museum down there by the Nile, you walk around in there and you see nothing but pictures of the disciples. They're all painted black. Christ is black, and I'll link the pictures to the podcast so that everyone can see what I'm talking about. But it's not like people, in the Middle Eastern area or in Europe, even in Asia, it's not like they don't know that Christ was a black man and Christ fought against certain systems.
Look,
in America, where he's been whitewashed.
Only in that slave mentality do we see the white Jesus.
Yeah.
It's just even in Russia. I was just teaching. Look, I'm a teacher. That's my job. I was teaching my kids just about Russia. Because we take them on a field trip every week, and they stay in the classroom, and we just show them different parts of the world. And I didn't even know this, and I found out that Russia, in order to get into Russia, you have to be invited. This is what I was talking.
Yeah.
But they have so much history in Russia. They have, when I was looking at this documentary of Russia, and I was looking at, they have so many places. They got places where Paul, the disciples were, and build churches and things like that. And I'm seeing, and inside of these images that I'm watching on the screen, I'm seeing black Christ and everything on these, and I'm like, hold up, they won't let you in here because they got, they got all of the artifacts that we need to rise up as a people and know who we are. That's why. That's why you have to read the book for yourself. You have to know who you are. You have to know, like when I was reading about, it says, thou shalt, it says, and there thou shalt serve other gods. First of all, that's what we doing in America. First of all, when you don't believe in a God, when you call yourself atheist, you believe in Satan automatically.
Yeah.
Because
or you believe in yourself as a God.
And that's they satanic as well, because that's idolatry as well. Because you're becoming an idol. You know what I'm saying? And That's satanic. That's exactly what Satan did. Satan, he was like, okay, listen, I'm not serving Adam. Look, he got kicked out of heaven because he wanted to be his own.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. That kind of gets to what Stephanie was asking. How do we not be in slavery today? Mm-hmm. It's the value system. Where is your value system? If your value system is in
good point.
Material things and what you can acquire, what you can do, what your mind can do, then your value system is off. You really have to get your values aligned with what Christ wants.
Exactly. But see, they don't have a way to measure their values because a lot of people don't know or understand the scriptures, or a lot of people don't want to hear the scriptures. Exactly. So, Mike, how do you think they can align themselves? How do you think a person can find the proper moral compass if they're not interested in the scriptures, or don't want to hear the scriptures, or don't want to have anything to do with God or Christ? How do you think they can align themselves with any kind of moral compass?
Well, I mean, the truth is they really have to. It's easier. It's far easier than what people may make it seem. And it really has to do with, I mean, where do you stand? I like to quote a rapper named Jay Electronica, you know, who says, you know, you either build or destroy where you come from. And it's one of those things that, I mean, who are you at the end of the day? I'm a man that's out here when I run into, you know, my black brothers and sisters, I run into their children. I speak, I say hi, I smile, I introduce myself, you know, because I want people to see me as okay, he's approachable, you know, he's easy for me to be able to talk to if I needed to, you know. And so many of us are walking around with different postures and different natures that we just carry with us just because we just choose to simply be that way. But I know that stealing is wrong, so why would I go to my neighbor's house and steal something? I know that if I'm at work, or even if I'm not at work, I know that if I'm around my mother or my sister and we're talking about something, you know, deep, maybe a family issue, and I lie about it, I know that I'm lying, you know. Or on the flip side, I know that if I see a homeless person in the street and they ask me for $1, and I know that I have tons of money in my pocket, and I look at them and I pull out 5 pennies and I give it to them instead, knowing that they asked me for $1. I mean, what kind of human being am I at the end of the day? And that I look at more than anything, because if I'm not taking the responsibility for myself first and foremost, how will I ever even be able to go then to any type of scripture in order for me to understand my purpose further? And a lot of people, they just don't really care about that. People are more concerned in what they're dealing with in the day to day, and they move exactly how they feel like moving within that moment, within that time frame, within that situation that they're in, and they lack integrity. And integrity is one of those things that you either have it or you don't, unfortunately. Like, it's kind of like the it factor, I guess you can say. You know, we're all born, I believe, innately to love and to have certain things within us that can give light to others. But then we choose not to give that light because we choose to look at the neighborhood that we live in, or we choose to look at our parents maybe not being perfect, or we choose to look at all of these things around us and we blame these things around us instead of, again, looking inward at ourselves and realizing what it is that we want to be. Because we don't have to change who we are because of the things that change around us. If we're grounded enough to know where we want to be, and we know the difference between right and wrong, to me, that's a good enough base and foundation to be able to go further with anything else that you want. So.
But that's just like what Christ said, be like children. because children have a certain innocence that we lose as we age. So
Absolutely.
if we look at children, we see how they behave and how they love. They love unconditionally. They love with forgiveness. They don't hold any grudges. So, it's best that we look at children, we study them, study their movements and how they operate, because they do operate in goodness. Children are not, evil. They learn evil behavior because we teach it to them. And so on that note, what we'll do is we'll take a quick break. We'll come back for 15 minutes and then we'll wrap everything up. And our listeners will enjoy some music. Okay.
Pull up to the party like what up though? Looking like an army at the front door. I ain't got Bacardi in my cup though. I don't drink cool, I'm tryna front for. There's some bad women in the building tonight. I'm on tunnel vision, man, I'm chillin' tonight. Done it, but I needed something real in my life. And I ain't never met a chick realer than my wife. I don't dance much, I play the war tight. And if I do, I'm two-stepping all night. Is he falling off, is he alright? If he in the dark, then he broad light. You knew what it was from the dodo. Boy, you see the dove in my photo. Man, that's where I live, for sure though. It's light work when I go though. So everything lit, ayy. 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 I show love to my folk now. Haters in the party tryna profile. Head up on the swivel cause I know now. Sober so I see it before it goes down. I can hear the DJ playing that way. Chase it with the A-train, made it, I made it. Know we lit tonight cause the day was amazing. You can't kill the vibe, it's okay, just embrace it. I'm tryna win, trying not to sin. If time is money, I ain't got a lot to spend. First I gotta get it, then I gotta give. First I had to die, then I got to live. You knew what it was from the dodo. Boy, you see the dove in my photo. Man, that's where I live, for sure though. It's light work when I go though. So everything lit, ayy. Everything lit, ayy. Everything lit, ayy. Everything lit, ayy. Everything lit. I just try to play the game like it ain't no bleachers. You know it's me, I switch the flow and be my own feature. I know they see us, but they so afraid we gon' reach them. And when we do it, ain't no telling what we gon' teach them. Like love your neighbor and quit banging on your own people. Wife your lady, raise your kids right, they gon' need you. I told them I am not for sale and won't promote evil. They told me I could give you murder, but no Jesus. These devils in this game are handpicking your leaders. That's why you get 100 dope boys and no preachers. Third verse is for the woke, no sleepers. But if that real ain't what you want, so be it. You knew what it was from the dodo. Boy, you see the dove in my photo. Man, that's where I live, for sure though. It's light work when I go though. So everything lit, ayy. Everything lit, ayy. Everything lit, ayy. Everything lit, ayy. Everything lit.
The love of your art, as well as the process, will always ensure that you are invested in your craft and the mission of art. Literacy is still a shortcoming in America, as well as those outside of our borders. However, imagination and seeing beyond the fear of failure are problems that affect our adult population. The lit life, in us we trust. That's built upon the understanding that literacy is the main pillar of crafting a life without boundaries. And with that, new minds may emerge and join the mission for the greater good. Contact Michael Lawrence at paperpiglitin@gmail.com for more information on how we can work together to improve tomorrow, today.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're here with our panel members, Brother Ahchwan, Sister Ericka, Brother Mike, and Brother Corey. Waiting for everybody to join us. How you feeling, Brother Ahchwan? You know it's late at night, huh?
Well, listen, I'm enjoying the conversation. I wish this thing could continue on longer and longer because it's good.
Yes. Maybe we can start a little earlier next time, but I feel like, with this podcast, I think we're reaching people, and I think that into some kind of understanding. Definitely. Brother Corey, you hanging in?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm enjoying the conversation.
Me too.
Yeah. Conversation, with good people. And this is something definitely that our community needs, because it's just long overdue. We don't, like I said earlier, we don't have any positive role models, in our lives. And it's just sad, Barack Obama could have been that. He could have been that thing for us to look up to, that greatness, that we need. But, we just don't have what we need.
Yeah, he had the opportunity to do it, but I think he just fell in line with everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, but I do have to give credit to him and his wife, because, they are, whatever they are doing, they're unified, they're still together. It's not a situation like Donald Trump and Melania. You see that they're just completely unhappy, and they're there just for show. I could see that Barack and Michelle really care for each other.
Yeah.
I could see it, so we're waiting on Ericka and Mike to join. Brother Ahchwan is bringing them scriptures.
Hey, listen, look, you already, man. Look, I'm gonna keep it straight 100 with the scripts. Straight 100. That's what our people lacking, man. They lacking that. And you know what I'm saying? Like I said, it touched me when I was like, hold up. I remember when the first time I heard that I was a Hebrew Israelite, I was like, what? I was like, oh, so that's why we've been going to this joint. That's how I've been, everything made sense, man. I was like, okay. And that's what our people's lacking.
Okay, we have Ericka's in. We're waiting on Brother Mike. Hey, Ericka, you hanging in there? You doing good?
I'm wonderful.
Go ahead and crack a little 1-2 joke for us. Put a little joke out there for us.
Y'all ain't ready.
Let's see here. We waiting on Mike. Okay, now Mike has joined. Okay, welcome back, brother. You hanging in there very well?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wrap up this segment. It has been an awesome time. I think some very good ideas came forth. I think a lot of knowledge and wisdom has been dropped like bombshells. And, this is a really good platform for our people to grow and learn. Even as co-hosts, I'm sure each of us are going to walk away enlightened and, feeling as if we've learned something new. So I would just like everyone to, exit the podcast with their final thoughts and maybe offer some advice to those who may be listening as to how they can enrich their lives and become better people. I'll go ahead and I'll start with Brother Corey. If you can finish your thoughts. I know that you had something to add before we took our break.
Yeah, just going back to the original topic. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
We can hear you now, brother.
Yeah, I was saying, going back to what we originally started, slavery thing. if we're gonna, ever come out of that state, I think, like what you guys mentioned earlier, two things, those commandments, even if I'm just talking about the 10 and Christ, of course, but like to those who don't, believe or whatever, I feel like, as most a principle among animals, you don't poop and eat in the same place. We can't, live in our communities and we trash them. We treat each other, with disrespect. We kill, we rob, we steal from one another, things of that nature. And I feel like, on top of that, just looking at our present state, I honestly feel, and this is just my opinion, that we're worse off than a lot of the slaves were back in the day. Because, the biggest thing with a lot of slaves back in the days, they couldn't read, they couldn't write. And that wasn't all of the slaves. But slaves knew how to farm. They knew how to work with their hands. They knew how to make their own clothes. They knew how to build a house from nothing. We just know we're educated. We know how to read. We know how to write. We know how to work with our hands a little bit, but we don't have the skills that a lot of the slaves had coming out of slavery. Like a lot of the slaves had the skills they had coming out of slavery. They could actually build their own nation, but with us, it's kind of like it's a lost art. You get what I'm saying? We picked up reading and writing, but it's more so for corporate use, to be a corporate slave as opposed to a chattel slave. So I feel like we need to get better at working with our hands, developing skills, not just being educated. And we need to put our prides aside and sit down and start having honest conversations. Right. Because if we don't, we won't ever get anywhere. And that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, brother. Okay, brother. Let's get actually Sister Ericka. We know you got to rattle some pots. Rattle them pots, girl.
Yes, honey. Yes, Mister need to eat. Okay. Period. Yes. What I first want to do is thank you all. I've never met the gentleman. I know Stephanie, but never met the gentleman. And this is a real treat for me, meeting men who do not mind discussing our current state while also giving or proposing solutions. If I were to look through American media, you guys do not exist. You are a phenomenon. Black men who actually think and want to do better are not a norm. And this is the truth, or their proposed truth about who we are. We know it's not that. We know more people like us than we know Pookie Dems. Everybody know a Pookie and a Peaches. Everybody know a Pookie.
Absolutely.
Who are out there who are not making it to the media. Honestly, our perception of the Middle East is only through what America wants us to know about them, just as their American perception about Black men and women is only through what they want out there about us. We have to know who we are. We have to be able to communicate with our brothers and sisters in the street. The phone is good. Facebook is good, but it is a tool designed to keep us separate, because the power is in our collecting. The power is in our sharing our knowledge. The power is in us thriving together. And as we take this podcast for whatever it is, a seed, a jumping stone, for whatever it is, I thank God in advance for how he's going to bless it, allow it to flourish, allow it to bring forth other fruits. I just thank you all for allowing me to be a part of it, but also I am encouraged by what we can do with it. It was a discussion today. It did start off of what Kanye said, and just like we mentioned earlier, he may not have been speaking scripturally. He was a vessel that God used for this conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kanye, for all your media foolishness.
and your ratchetness.
So thank you all.
Thank you, Ericka. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to drop off, you can. I know your man need to eat. Go on and feed that man.
Yes.
Put me a plate to the side. Put me a plate to the side.
Girl, you don't want none of these pork. You don't want none of these pork. Just
no,
playing.
You're right. I don't want none of them porks. I don't. You're right. Go ahead. You say that. Say that. All right. And we're gonna go ahead and go to Brother Mike. You can lead. You can give us your final thoughts on the matter here.
Absolutely. I believe that there is a dichotomy or duality, in all of us. And, Kanye definitely, spoke some truths, and maybe he spoke them in a way that weren't necessarily ready to be accepted by people. Just, due to us really not being ready to accept certain things. And a part of us has to get over what we were used to, or what we were taught, or what we were told that didn't necessarily feed us in the way that we were supposed to be fed. And at the same time, we also have to turn inward. And if we're not going to accept a higher power, if we're not going to accept the Most High, if we're not the universe, whatever you want to call it, if we're not going to accept that, then the burden is on us to look inside of ourselves and know the difference between right and wrong, and to know that we want our children to be safe and happy. And it all starts with really using that imagination and being children, as you said earlier, Steph, and getting back to that base to where we understand what it is that we want when we're looking at the things that mean the most to us. And, hopefully that can start to be the end of not just slavery in itself, but also just the way that we view one another as brothers and sisters, so that we can unite and get to that point that most people don't know that's waiting for us.
That's a blessing. Thank you, brother. Okay, and then we're going to end our podcast with Brother Ace, Brother Ahchwan. Please give us your final thoughts.
Okay. And I want to say, man, first of all, I thank you for this podcast, man. And I ask that the Most High bless it, man, and allow it to flourish, and allow it to bring forth good fruit.
Yeah.
And but I want to say this, Kanye, like they said, he didn't know what he was saying. He was just, going off at the mouth like he usually does. But he said something that was very profound. It tied directly into what the Most High wanted us to hear at that time to bring about these conversations. And I want to say, when he said we chose slavery, I want to read something out of Baruch, and then I want to basically just end it off with this. It says, this is Baruch. This was one of the prophets that was coming under Jeremiah.
Where can they find the book of Baruch?
This is in the Apocrypha. This is in the Lost 14 books that was taken out by the Roman Catholic Church, but it's in the 1611 King James Bible.
Okay.
So you can also get this joint by yourself. It's a King James Version book, okay, that was taken out by the Roman Catholic Church. But this is a third Baruch, and Baruch name is Baruch. You can also download the PDF online. But this is third Baruch, verse 8. It says, "Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity." So when the brother said that, we're still in captivity as of now, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payment. So this is what keeps us under that the slavery. This is the mind choice that we choose, because we're under subject to payment, because we don't own anything. We in debt in America, and that's just what it is. According to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Most High, our God. So that's the number one thing. If we put down our sin, if we come back to God, and we serve him correctly, if we keep the 10, like the brother Corey said, like the brother Mike mentioned, if we keep the 10 and we make that our base, and we follow Christ in all his righteousness, and we serve God with all of our hearts, and not with the wicked hearts, but with a renewed mind, that'd be the foundation of starting to come out of these chains.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope. That's dope. Definitely. Definitely. And with that said, I want to thank all of the panel members who joined us today and all the listeners. We hope that this podcast edifies you. We hope that it blesses you. We hope that you take all of our words very seriously, take it to heart, and help build your community. It starts with you. And with that said, I want to wish everybody a good night and thank you all for joining us. Thank you.
Hey now, what you gonna say? Got the Israelites working. Hey now, what you gonna say? Got the Most High working. Ahia working.
Yeah. Yeah. Go down, recall. Look. Got the Israelite working, got in the hand working. Hating now, what you gon' see? Yeah. Boys used to set up shop on the block, straight working. Shots rain out, fuck, it ain't worth it. Thought he'd go to heaven, faith what he said, but he burning instead. Faith without works dead. Revelations 2:23, you judged by works. You can believe, but you don't change it, ain't working. Up in the church, they teach you can't be perfect, but you can at least try. Don't believe that lie. They stereotype like you that don't be working. Came to the light, now I see them boys working. Where my sisters at, who got the coldest hair wrap? With a Bible in their hand, hollering where that precept. With a baby in the other, she supporting her brothers. Went from a bad beat to a good mother. She whooping, cooking in the kitchen till her back hurting. We laid hands on her quick, she say, man, that work. 1 John 5:2, keep commandments and obey. So the Father that you love him ain't no other way. So if Christ be the truth and a light and a way, why would a higher send his son just to do it all away? Now watch out, on fire, cause the word be working. All praise a high, cause the Lord be working. Where my Judah at? Man, I see them boys work. Where that 9.5, man, them boys do work. Watch out, man, they hate us, but they don't work, man. Man, they rape us, but they don't work. Man, they poison what we eat, but they don't work. And you can call the police, but they don't work, man. Last Trump, I ain't talking no Donald. America's next, I ain't talking top model. Spirit filled, it keep your eye hollow. Can't put new wine off in an old bottle. Deuteronomy 6:4, that's the motto. Yeah, Egyptology, it's no Trump Bible. Once they see how deep the water go, all of a sudden they shallow. Yo, God of your Bible don't follow no Thanksgiving gobble. I know that the Lord is the truth, be the hardest to swallow. I go Deuteronomy 23:17, automatically snatching these whores like Showtime at the Apollo. All for the stage with sodomy boys while people applaud. It don't work, whether you be under grace or not. See they lying, say they lions, but they snakes a lot. Get out our lands, we finna put you in your place a lot. A higher back, we about to put it in your face a lot. Now watch out, on fire, cause the word be working. All praise a high, cause the Lord be working. Where my Judah at? Man, I see them boys work. Where that 9.5, man, them boys do work. Watch out, man, they hate us, but they don't work, man. Man, they rape us, but they don't work. Man, they poison what we eat, but they don't work. And you can call the police, but they don't work. Where my Judah at? Work. Where my Judah at? Work. 9.5. Israelites working, Israelites working.
That consequences come with it too. I'm not here to judge, but unite. Stand for my beliefs, peace out the fights. I'm just here to make it turn out right. We stand together, we wax our better. Send your guidance, cause we need another most. We got that brown skin, cause she's turned up from the sun. And those brown eyes that was given from our God, away from the lost tribes. Naphtali is our sons now. Now ignite, Polynesians, we are one. Ooh, 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 don't lose your roots. This is all that we have left, so we can prove our tired is a gift. All praises to the Most High. All praises to the Most High. All praises to the Most High.
This our Pacific people, why do you reject God? Never pray, never follow the commandments, and never keeping the Sabbath when your chosen people. Says God, always beef with us, no peace in us. Never ease but easily get heated up. Did you beat him up? Did the enemy controlling us defeated us? Straight up, drop the religion so there's no more division. We on a mission trying to gather up our people. Even our brothers, we should be helping each other instead of divided the color doing evil. Our people, let's drop the nonsense and think about the next generation. If the foolish will lead and the knowledge and the wise is gone, it's gonna be a messed up situation.
And when are we gonna rise up and repent from our wicked ways? Don't wait, I beg Naphtali, stand up. I promise it will be okay. When are we gonna rise up and repent from our wicked ways? Don't wait, I beg Naphtali, stand up. The Most High is calling you. In these to the Most High. All praises to the Most High. All praises to the Most High.
podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.